Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Roll Rock Podcast presents Wrestlecast. I am your host, Renee Canis, and I'm here with my co host, Rocky McVeigh.
Hey, everybody. I was still setting up the live stream, so I'm not paying attention to you.
I'm here with my other co host, Roland Robinson.
Everyone.
And then we're here with the American blank ass, apparently. Hey.
What's going on, guys? How's it going? Rocky, wake up.
I'm still, you guys get to do this, but I still got to set the live stream up. It's not completely set up until I do a bunch of
I
stuff.
got to do technical stuff. while the show's going on.
Well, I might as well just say it as soon as it starts. Fuck you, Shane.
Just get it out of the way.
And while we're at it, I'm fucking hardcore drinking that, doing fucking shots.
Oh, my gosh. It's torture, ladies and gentlemen. It's torture.
And once again, fuck you, Shane.
So today's episode, we are doing part 2 of our Undertaker restaurant. Jesus. We're doing part 2 of our Undertaker series. When we last left off around his WrestleMania 18 match against Ric Flair. So we'll just take it from there and cover about the next 10 years or so of his career. So in the aftermath of WrestleMania 18, if you guys remember, a few months before that, they had brought back Ric Flair, and as part of the invasion angle, they said the reason Shane and Stephanie were able to buy WCW and ECW was that they had sold their shares in WWE. And in storyline, those shares were bought by Ric Flair, and they now made him 50% owner of WWE. The main reason they had done this was because the roster had gotten so large after basically purchasing WCW and ECW, is that the idea was that they were going to split the two shows, Raw and SmackDown. And the original idea was that one would be WWE and the other one would be WCW. But no network was interested whatsoever in WCW. They're like, this is a company that failed. They had no TV ratings. We want WWE content. Why the fuck would we want WCW content? So then they were like, all right, we'll just call it WWE Raw, WWE SmackDown, but they'll still have their own unique rosters and all of that. What do you guys think this was a good idea at the time as far as like splitting the roster?
They had no choice. I mean, the roster was huge, and to showcase everybody. I mean, it was hard enough on Monday nights. I mean, shortly thereafter, didn't it? Well, it may have been a couple of years later, but they went to 3 hours. But I mean, it was so convoluted. And honestly, and I'll be honest, today, to me, it's still a little hard to follow with, the Friday night, and then for a while they moved it to Tuesday or Thursday, and then back to Friday, and it's just poor SmackDown. I mean, poor little SmackDown. That's how I feel about them, really, because they just kind of get shuffled around, and it's kind of like it's not really the B team. I mean, they've got high profile people, in the draft and flip flopping, but honestly, is the best thing they could do with the rosters that they had was to split it up, make 2 different shows. I mean, it was the best and most obvious choice. I don't blame them.
I mean, at the time on Raw, you had like Austin, the NWO, and Undertaker were drafted to Raw. And then on the SmackDown side, you had Rock and Triple H, Chris Jericho on the SmackDown side. So I think it helped because you weren't showcasing just Rock and Austin and Triple H and Undertaker on every single episode. This time you were giving more opportunities to some of the mid card and stuff like that.
I didn't like it. Like I'll just say I hated it actually when they did that. It wasn't so much that they split the roster. It was the belt situation when they started like giving SmackDown their own belts. I didn't mind like having two different like showcasing different people on SmackDown. I was fine with that. I mean, a lot of organizations that did that in the past where they had like certain people on one show and then you have like the next show and you see like the lower card people on it. But with Raw and SmackDown, the whole like having like separate belts for each just each show is like what I hated about it, because it basically made WWE like completely compartmentalized, and like there was, to me, I mean, you got the Universal Champion now, but at the time there was like no real, I was like, who's the fucking champion? There's no real champion. The championship doesn't mean as much because of this. Is the way I felt about it.
So the way that it originally split, it was the Intercontinental and European title and the Hardcore title were all on Raw. The tag titles were on SmackDown. And then the heavyweight champion and the women's champion would be on both shows.
See, I would prefer if they went back to that. Now, I know this show's about Undertaker or whatever, and try not to get on a tangent, but I would prefer if they went back to that, because, you got the greatest champion of all over here, and then, well, I'm the greatest champion of all over here. I mean, I don't even remember. They don't have a Universal title anymore, do they? It's called something else, right?
Now they call it a Universal title, but that's the title on Raw, whereas the SmackDown
is the WWE champion, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, the championship's a little convoluted, and I'm being nitpicky, I guess. But I liked it, like originally. Intercontinental.
So yeah, eventually each show will get their own tag titles, their own secondary titles. So SmackDown will get the US title and their own tag belts and all that stuff. But like the currently in present day, the title that Roman Reigns has is the original title with the original lineage going all the way back to Bruno Sammartino. So after the Flair Undertaker feud, they had Undertaker feud with Austin. And as we mentioned in the first episode, I never thought they had great chemistry. But at this point, this was when Austin was pretty much almost done and Undertaker wasn't in the best shape. So this match wasn't that great. And this was for the number one contendership. And the winner would face the winner of the Triple H Hulk Hogan title match, which Hogan won and Undertaker won the number one contendership. Do you guys think that WWE missed out big time by never having Austin versus Hogan in a match?
No, I don't think they missed out.
No, I don't think that was a miss out. I mean, I always loved Hogan. Was growing up, I was a Hulkamaniac, but like Hogan and Austin is not something I ever wanted to see. Like I was Rock versus Hogan. That kind of made me excited, but Hogan versus Austin was not something I really cared about seeing, because it was more like, when you think about Hogan, you think about like he was always like kind of like the people's champ. So The Rock made sense, him going against. It was kind of like the old people's champ versus the new people's champ. Like Austin's just somebody that goes in and kicks everybody's ass and don't give a fuck about the like what anybody else thinks. So it really wasn't a Hogan thing to me, like for Hogan to go against him.
I think it could have worked if it was like, Austin around 98, 99 versus like Hollywood Hogan, maybe. I
Yeah,
think that would have been the better.
you're
version.
totally right. I mean, if you use Hollywood Hogan, NWO Hogan against Stone Cold, then it's a little more drawing, I guess. But like '80s Hogan and Stone Cold, that's just like, I mean, that's like killing Santa Claus or something. I mean, is what it's like. So no, Hollywood Hogan, Stone Cold, yeah. Old Hogan, Hulkamania, vitamins, and say your prayers. No.
Hmm. All right. So in the build up to the Judgment Day match against Hogan, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was this segment where Undertaker literally beats the shit out of Hogan and ties him to the back of his motorcycle and then drags him around the arena. It's pretty silly at the time, but anyway, Undertaker would actually go on and beat Hogan for the title at Judgment Day to become world champion for the 4th time. Also not that great of a match, but Hogan wasn't around that much longer after this either. He basically came in, did a quick cash grab, and was gone. Eventually, around this time, they would have Undertaker put the belt on the line against a lot of younger guys. So he would defend against Matt Hardy, Tommy Dreamer at the time, Rob Van Dam. And eventually this culminated in a ladder match on around the July 4th episode of Raw of that year against Jeff Hardy, which is a match a lot of people remember, and it's one of those matches that gets mentioned a lot, like on the best Raw matches of all time. Jeff Hardy came close to winning the title. Fucking Jim Ross is like having a heart attack on commentary, yelling for him to climb up there and pull down the belt. And another thing that people remember for this match is after the match ended, Jeff Hardy keeps standing up and calling out the Undertaker, and Undertaker comes down and beats the shit out of him, starts to leave the ring, and Jeff gets back up and calls him out a second time. And no matter how many times Undertaker beats him down, he keeps getting up, and eventually Undertaker's like, just raises his hand like, you got guts, kid. Which basically leads to his face turn again. So he was only heel for about 6 months there.
I got a question for you, Renee.
Yeah.
You mentioned, how he was going against all these young studs for, a certain longevity there. Do you think that was? Did you notice, like, physically the downturn of the Undertaker? Did you see his, start fading away a little bit this time, or was it before or after?
Towards the end of his American Badass career, he was like way above 300, 350 pounds. It wasn't until he came back as the DeadMan and shed a lot of that weight off. Like, you could almost say he had better matches in his 40s. It's crazy to say that, but like once he got in way better ring shape, like he was out there killing it, man. Eventually, you end up with a triple threat match at Vengeance with Kurt Angle, The Rock, and Undertaker. Which, if you haven't seen this match, definitely go out and check it out. It's a great fucking match. At some points in the matches, they're all hitting each other's finishers. So, like, Undertaker does the rock bottom on The Rock. Rock does the Angle slam on Angle, and Rock does the choke slam on Undertaker and shit like that. It's a great match. Rock would end up winning the title on that show and go on to feud with Brock Lesnar. Undertaker would go on to feud with the Un-Americans. Do any of you guys remember the Un-Americans?
Oh, yeah, I do. What's his
I don't
name?
remember those.
Oh gosh, what was his name? Tell us.
It was Tess, William Regal, Christian, and Lance Storm.
Okay, William Regal.
Uh,
Right, William Regal.
Yeah.
That makes sense, him being it.
I didn't. I
Yeah.
forgot about Lance Storm though. I forgot about him.
At this point on the card, so at this point they had introduced 2 general managers for Raw and SmackDown. Raw was being run by Eric Bischoff, which was a crazy surprise, and SmackDown was being run by Stephanie McMahon. And do you guys remember Eric Bischoff showing up on Raw the first time?
No, did they boo him out of the place, or I mean, how'd that go down? Because that couldn't have lasted long. I mean, that had to have last a minute too. What?
If I remember right, when I first seen him come out, yeah, he got booed hard.
Well, it was a surprise. I always thought they ruined it, but Bruce Pritchard on his podcast explained it, and when he explained it, I could see why they did it. So they had Booker T in the backstage doing a promo, and all of a sudden, Eric Bischoff crosses the screen, and Booker T does the "Tell me I didn't just see that," and then they cut to commercial, and then they have Vince McMahon come out and say, "Hey, I'm introducing the Raw general manager, and it's Eric Bischoff," and they fucking hug in the ring. And I was always like, why would you blow it before the commercial and not save it as a surprise? But the way Bruce Pritchard explained it was we had him come out before the commercial so that during the commercial, you could call your buddies up and be like, you're not going to believe who's on fucking Raw right now. Tune in right now, you know? When you explain it that way, it kind of makes sense, but I always thought they kind of blew it a little bit there.
I wonder if Bischoff had anything to do with that.
No, Bischoff was a full-on just under like a TV contract, not like with a little wrestling contract, so he had no input whatsoever on
just
talent, right?
Because that almost sounds like a Bischoff tactic.
Yeah. So at this point, you know, guys would be switching between Raw and SmackDown, surprises and stuff like that. And Undertaker ends up going to SmackDown. And then in the backstage point of stuff, Paul Heyman was actually the one writing SmackDown in 2002. And
I freaking hate it. If you did, I think they had signed a exclusivity contract with UPN at this point in time.
Yeah, so Paul Heyman's idea was to basically like, you know, I'll have a few main eventers, but I'm gonna build the show around 6 guys who could pretty much go out there and steal the show every night. A lot of people on the internet would refer to this group as the SmackDown 6. It was Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero, Edge, and Rey Mysterio. So his plan was to basically build the show around these 6 performers who could, like I said, could go out there and steal the show on any given night. So for the next several months, you would see these guys feud with each other, things like that. Meanwhile, in the main event, Undertaker started a feud with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar had debuted about 6 months before this. If you guys remember, they pretty much strap a rocket to his back and send them straight to the main event, which would lead to a Hell in a Cell match. Do you guys remember the Hell in a Cell match between Taker and Lesnar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What year was this?
This was No Mercy 2002.
2002. Okay. So this isn't Les. Okay, I know where you're at now. Never mind.
All right. So this match is fucking bloody. If you haven't seen this match, like, go watch it. Like, at certain points, they're literally like bleeding into each other's mouths. As to how bloody this match gets, they just beat the ever living shit out of each other.
You're absolutely right, Renee. I remember that match, and it was a really good one. I mean, it was like UFC, dude. I mean, it was good stuff.
Anytime they show it on TV or reference this match on TV, they always show it in black and white because it's that fucking gory. You could only watch the unedited version if you're watching the pay-per-view itself.
Who was Lesnar's manager at that time?
He was still with Heyman.
Heyman, okay.
Yeah, but Heyman would betray him like a couple months after this.
Okay.
So they basically had this match to write Undertaker off of TV for a while. He would come back at the Royal Rumble in 2003 and start leading up to his WrestleMania match, which was originally supposed to be the Big Show and A-Train taking on the Undertaker and Nathan Jones. Do you guys remember Nathan Jones at all?
No.
Nope.
Should we?
No. So
No.
this was like a 7-foot Australian guy. If you've seen the movie The Condemned, he's like one of the prisoners in that.
Is that the Austin movie?
Yeah.
10 Little Indians, the remake? Yeah. That's what it is, 10 Little Indians.
So originally this was supposed to be a tag team match, and Nathan Jones was so fucking terrible that even though they tried practicing the match in Undertaker's backyard because they had a ring built in his backyard so they could practice the match, eventually they were like, Undertaker was like, no, I'm not working with this fucking asshole. So on the Sunday Night Heat before WrestleMania,
are you quoting him right there?
Yes.
Okay.
On the Sunday Night Heat, before WrestleMania that night, they had the full-blooded Italians, which, if you remember, that was Nunzio, Chuck Palumbo, and Johnny Stamboli. They had them take out Nathan Jones before the show so that they could write him off of the card. And they turned it into a handicap match.
Could the guy not play basketball? I mean, if you're 7 foot tall in Australia, I mean, they got basketball leagues everywhere. I mean, like Europe, Australia, go play basketball, stand there.
So Nathan Jones' gimmick is that he had been locked up in prison, which turned out to actually be true because he was a criminal in Australia and had been locked up in prison.
Criminal in Australia.
Yeah.
Everybody in Australia is criminal.
So anyway, they end up writing him out, and they turn Undertaker's match into a handicap match. He even had a special Limp Bizkit entrance. They had Limp Bizkit actually perform during Undertaker's entrance, and he ends up pinning A-Train, which gets him to 11-0 at WrestleMania.
It would have been a lot cooler if Fred Durst had got in on the match and been Undertaker's partner. That would have been so much cooler.
Yeah, we should do a what if or whatever happened to Fred Durst.
Yeah.
I've actually seen an interview with Undertaker, and he says that that's his best entrance was when Limp Bizkit played him in live. Mm-hmm. Of all of entrances he ever did, he thinks that's the best entrance he ever did.
Well, he was on the motorcycle. They had fireworks going off. It wasn't a bad entrance. I'll say that. But so eventually Undertaker would continue to feud with some of the younger guys on the roster, and he would feud with John Cena. And this would be the only one-on-one match that him and John Cena would have until WrestleMania 34. So they wouldn't have a one-on-one match against each other for 11 years after this.
So is this the rapping John Cena?
Yes, this is rapping John Cena. This is John Cena doing a rapping video at a cemetery, talking shit to the Undertaker.
I've got to see it.
This was when Cena was a heel, and he tells Undertaker to suck his tailpipe and all this other shit. The match is actually not bad, but you could see that they were really building up Cena to be the next big thing, which eventually he was. I always thought it was kind of a shame that, besides WrestleMania 34, this was their only one-on-one match against each other. After the Cena feud, he would feud with Vince McMahon himself. Which would lead to match at Survivor Series and a Buried Alive match. If you haven't seen this match is extremely bloody as well. Vince McMahon gets busted open off the very first punch Undertaker gives him. And Vince McMahon also takes a unprotected shot to the face with a shovel at one point. If you want to see how loud that sounds, definitely check out that match.
Maybe that's why his face looks like it does today.
Yeah. So this would lead to Kane coming out during the match, and they would bury the American Badass Undertaker. And that's the last time we would see that version of Undertaker. So they buried it. Rest in peace, man.
Did Taker get buried alive in every Buried Alive match?
I think he did, man.
I believe he did.
I know he lost the one with Austin. And I'm sure he lost the one with Mankind as well.
Yeah. And Kane done it to him twice now? That we
I think so,
about?
yeah.
So,
have you ever heard this thing? There's this thing online that they say the wrestling business is very cyclical. So they say they could basically repeat a storyline every 7 years or so because there's been enough turnover in the fan base that to them it's brand new.
Yeah.
So
but I think it's very appropriate though that the Undertaker, the DeadMan.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Kane buries Undertaker in 2003, but then he buries him again in 2010.
Yeah.
But Taker, well, was that I don't think that was a Buried Alive match. The AJ Styles match.
No, that wasn't a.
It was the same. It was the same thing as a Buried Alive match. It just
they
called it
something Boneyard match.
They called it the Boneyard. Okay, I was gonna say.
So now, I don't know if we'll cover it in this one, but I want to say it's about that time. Isn't this the time they finally killed off the character Paul Bearer? Wasn't that?
We'll actually be getting to that, okay. But he'd come back a few times too. So 2 months later, during the Royal Rumble, they have Kane out there and he's dominating the match, and the countdown starts, counting down for the 13th entrant to come out, and you hear the gong sound, and the whole stadium goes dark, and the crowd just goes absolutely nuts, and then the regular music starts for Spike Dudley to come out. Kane proceeds to pretty much destroy Spike Dudley. But in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania, they would have like a casket show up in the middle of the ring full of like dirt and worms, after Kane would win a match, it would just start raining in the entrance ramp as he was making his way with lightning and thunder. And at one point, they even had the ring itself start moving. So he finally gets challenged to match at WrestleMania, and the DeadMan comes back. And he also comes back with Paul Bearer for the first time in probably 5 years. By this point, Paul Bearer was actually retired, and he only agreed to come back if WWE would pay for his gastric bypass, which they did. And I think in some interviews, Paul Bearer said that at that point he was like weighing almost 500 pounds.
Damn, I didn't know he
He
ever
was
weighed
big.
that much.
He was big. I remember he was kind of just waddling around there for a while. I mean,
Yeah, so they paid for his gastric bypass. So like by the time they were at WrestleMania that year, he had already lost like 100 pounds and would eventually get a lot thinner. But the match itself, Undertaker will come out with the Druids and all that stuff. The match itself is only about 5 minutes. It actually took place right before the main event on that show. But Undertaker would be 12-0 at the end of this one. For the rest of 2004, they would have Undertaker feud with Booker T, who this feud was hilarious to me. They had like Booker T going to witch doctors trying to help him beat the Undertaker.
But did they go to Kamala?
Yeah, they should have had him go to Kamala, man. I always loved Booker T, man. I always thought he was hilarious. He was a great performer.
the Boogeyman he made a couple appearances, right? The Boogeyman, did he make some appearances during this?
No, this was a few
No?
years before Boogeyman debuted.
Okay.
So this is what was it you, Rocky, or was it Roland who asked about the Paul Heyman feud?
Rolling.
Okay, so they had Paul Heyman kidnap. Paul Heyman had the Dudley Boys kidnap Paul Bearer, and they had Paul Heyman basically make the Undertaker, you have to swear your allegiance to me or whatever, or we'll kill Paul Bearer. It's for kids, people. Which would lead to a concrete crypt match. Now, for those wondering what the fuck a concrete crypt match is, they literally stuffed Paul Bearer inside a glass case and were dumping cement into it. And if Undertaker didn't do what he was told, they kept filling it with cement to kill Paul Bearer.
I remember this match, actually. I do remember this match.
Wasn't this the last time we ever seen Paul?
For a few years, yeah. Like I said, eventually he would come back as Kane's manager. So Undertaker beats the Dudleys. He goes over to he saved Paul Bearer, and then he just turns on the machine and finishes the job himself. And then he basically tells Paul Heyman, if I did that to my manager, what do you think I'm going to do to you? So, yeah, that was silly as shit. Eventually, this will lead to a feud with JBL. What did you guys think of JBL as a bad guy?
I can't see him as a good guy. I mean, I just don't see him as a good guy. I like him as a bad guy.
I don't like JBL at all. Period.
How did you guys take it as him like going from Bradshaw?
Yeah, that's what
like a tag team guy to being a main eventer as JBL.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that he went the tag team to a main eventer is not a big deal, but I fucking loved Bradshaw. I fucking love Bradshaw and Farouk as the tag
Yeah.
team. But the fact that he turned into this fucking like money caring about cowboy, I was like, this is the worst fucking turn they've ever done on the show. And the fact that he became popular and
Yeah.
stayed around forever, like I fucking hated the whole thing.
Well,
Now-
I hated it.
I have an acronym for JBL. Just a boring loser.
Wow,
I
that's harsh.
freaking hate the character.
Harsh.
so for those who don't know, JB or Bradshaw had been pitching this character for a few years, and Vince liked it, but he's like, I don't know. Like, I kind of like you and Farouk together. But it got to the point where Brock Lesnar walked out of the company, and Farouk was like, I'm getting too old for this shit. I think I want to retire. So they were like, all right, we kind of have a space open in the main event, and it's like, let's go ahead and try it. As an in-ring performer, I think Bradshaw's just okay, but his character as that villain was really good. Like, he was a guy you would definitely buy a ticket to go see get his ass kicked. And funny little side fact, JBL actually never had any merchandise made for him because he didn't want anyone cheering him in any type of way or being a fan of his in any type of way, because his job was to be a heel. So you should fucking hate him.
That is an old school tactic there.
Yeah.
I always thought this might sound weird, but I always thought he was like the cowboy version of William Regal. That's what I always put him on as.
Yeah. So
Except I liked William Regal more.
So at SummerSlam that year, JBL defended the title against Undertaker, and the match ended in a DQ. But the funny thing with that match is that JBL says that at the end of that match, he said they were going to choke slam him from the top of the limousine that he came out in, and he would break through the ceiling. And he said they had set up the stunt. He said, but at some point during Undertaker's entrance, some fan broke through the barricade and actually jumped on top of the limousine. And he didn't break through the ceiling. So JBL, the whole match was like, all right, if that like big guy didn't break through the ceiling, I'm going to fucking get killed when that shit doesn't split open and I go through it. So he said, but at no point did he ever tell Undertaker, like, hey, let's not do this because you might fucking kill me on the roof of that car. He said, luckily, Undertaker chokeslammed him hard enough that he went through. After this, Paul Heyman would come back with a new wrestler by the name of John Heidenreich. Do you guys
name just
remember
rolls
John?
off the tongue.
Yeah. This guy was fucking terrible too. Eventually they would bring back Road Warrior Animal back, and they would actually have Heidenreich become a member of Legion of Doom. But yeah. So the original plan for WrestleMania was another tag match. It was supposed to be Undertaker and Kane teaming up versus Heidenreich and Snitsky. Do you guys remember Snitsky at all? He's the guy that drop kicked Lita's baby or whatever. Anyway, I guess they realized fuck that match because no one cares about Heidenreich or Snitsky. So they set up a interpromotional match. Randy Orton challenging Randy Orton from Raw challenging Undertaker from SmackDown. And they had Orton show up on SmackDown and just slap the fuck out of Undertaker. And, you know, made the challenge. This is another one of those WrestleMania matches that has a really cool entrance with the Undertaker. If you guys remember, this is the one that they did in Los Angeles. So they had all those Hollywood parody film commercials. You guys remember those at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember those.
Yeah, so they had like Eugene as Forrest Gump, or they had Triple H as William Wallace. They had Undertaker recreate Dirty Harry.
Now, that one I don't remember. I remember the Triple H one. I don't remember the
but
Undertaker one.
Yeah, during the entrance, they actually had Undertaker on a platform, so it made it look like he was hovering all the way to the ring. Like so that I always thought that was pretty cool. The match itself was really good, and honestly, if it weren't for like Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle on the same card, Orton and Undertaker would have been like the best match on that show. One of my favorite spots though is Undertaker going for the choke slam and Orton reversing it into the RKO. The RKO always reminded me a lot of like the Diamond Cutter, basically, where he could hit it from fucking anywhere.
You want to talk about a good heel? Randy Orton is a freaking great heel.
Yes.
I just look at him and I just want to slap him.
I don't know. I want to go have a beer with him personally. I mean,
I agree with Roland on this. I fucking hated him from day one, and to this day, like whenever I see him, like the only thing that comes to mind is fuck that guy.
It's not a dislike. I respect him a lot because it takes a lot for me to just look at you and go, God, I want to watch you get hit by a truck. I want to watch bodily physical harm happen to you just by looking at you. And his attitude, just him.
It's just, he's a fucking great heel. I mean, like I think, I mean, when I see him wrestle, I'm like, Randy Orton is fucking great. He's fucking great. But like everything about him, like he's just like, you just want to be like, fuck you.
Fucking prick.
I just want to hit you with my Jeep. Just run your ass over.
I always enjoyed his feud with Mick Foley around that time too, like 2004. I always thought that was really good. But yeah, Randy Orton's always been a great heel. Anytime he's a babyface, though, it's fucking terrible.
So here's my thing. Randy Orton could as good as, I mean, he's great, you know, and you guys are right. He's a good heel, great heel. But I just think he has so much more. He could be like, I mean, I think he could be like Austin level, you know, back in the heyday. And Randy, if you need a manager, I think I can get you there. I think I can, because honestly, you're not as a big a asshole as these guys think you are. You can be so much more of an asshole. You can.
We could take your assholishness.
I can show you a thing or two. Let me tell you. So,
hey, I'm not disagreeing with Shane. Shane can fucking take the asshole to the next level. If anyone can do this, he can do this for you.
Thank you very much.
Shane Harris School and Institute of Assholery.
I'm telling you, I mean,
asshole
you guys
will go from like that to like that and like snap.
You guys are wanting to like, you know, slap him and run over him with the truck and everything. And I just want to put my arm around him and be like, dude, you can be so much more. You can be so much more of an asshole. You know, it's.
We can take you from people wanting to hit you with a truck to burning you and your family alive in a house.
I can take you there. I can take you there. Look me up, Randy.
Anyway, with this victory, Undertaker would go to 13-0. For the rest of 2005, he would get into feuds with Muhammad Hassan. Do you guys remember this guy at all? He was only around for like 6 months.
What was his name?
Muhammad Hassan.
Was he the guy that was like the big guy that actually acted like he was like superior to everybody, or is this a different one?
No, he was in the storyline. He's an Arabian American from Detroit. Was his character? So his character was like, I'm an American, but you guys treat me like I'm second class because I'm I come from a different country and stuff like that. So he, eventually Raw and SmackDown were both like, we don't want this character on our TV. It eventually it led to, well, the biggest controversy is, do you guys remember the London bombings with the trains and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. So on the same day that happened, at the time SmackDown was taped on Tuesdays and would air on either Thursday or Friday. But the same day that happened, SmackDown aired their episode where Muhammad Hassan had 3 or 4 guys in ski mask come out and beat the shit out of the Undertaker. And use like piano wire to choke him out.
That is great timing. That is superb timing.
Now this was edited out of it airing in other countries, but it aired here in America. And after this, UPN and USA Network or TNN, whatever channel Raw was on, were like, we don't want this character on our TV anymore. So Hassan wouldn't show up for the next couple episodes, but he would show up at the pay-per-view, because on pay-per-view, WWE is allowed to do whatever the fuck they want. And they proceed to have Undertaker just fucking destroy this guy. To the point where Undertaker actually choke slams him off the stage onto the concrete. And the last image we see of Muhammad Hassan is him like bleeding out on the concrete. And that's how they wrote that character off.
America. Fuck yeah.
At this point, they have Randy Orton.
Why has that never been Undertaker's theme song? America, fuck yeah.
At this point, they have a draft. At this point, they have a draft again, and they have Randy Orton drafted to SmackDown to continue that feud. And it's pretty much a feud that would go on for like the rest of the year. Randy Orton would beat him at SummerSlam, and then he would beat him in a casket match. And it was actually a handicap casket match because it was Randy and his father, Cowboy Bob, versus The Undertaker. After the match, they proceed to light the casket on fire. Keep in mind, this is what happened to Undertaker 7 years before. So to keep that 7-year theme going. Undertaker would return at Survivor Series, and it would lead to a Hell in a Cell match with Randy Orton and his father versus The Undertaker in Hell in a Cell. Cowboy Bob would actually get fired after this match because apparently he has, I want to say some type of, I forget which version, if he has hepatitis A or hepatitis C. And he didn't tell anybody. So when he was like bleeding all over the ring, let's say when Undertaker found out, he wasn't too happy. So he got Cowboy Bob Orton fired after that. Undertaker would be gone for a little bit after that and would make his return at the Royal Rumble. Now, he didn't compete on this show at all, but what they did was Kurt Angle was defending his title against Mark Henry in the main event. And after Kurt Angle wins, they have Undertaker come out in a fucking horse-drawn carriage, points at Kurt Angle, and lightning comes down from the ceiling and fucking destroys the ring. And he challenges Kurt Angle to a match. Now, a couple months before this, Eddie Guerrero had passed away. And the original plan was Eddie versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. But which is a match we never got to see. And that sucks because I'm sure that would have been an incredible fucking match. Once that happened, they had to shuffle things around. And Kurt Angle was originally supposed to fight Undertaker at WrestleMania, but since a lot of stuff got shuffled on the card, they ended up doing this match at No Way Out. If you haven't seen this match, it's another match I would highly recommend. Kurt Angle, Undertaker, No Way Out 2006. After this, Undertaker would wrestle Mark Henry at WrestleMania this year. In the build-up to this, I had mentioned the Muhammad Hassan character. He had a manager by the name of Khosrow Davari. Now, Davari actually got to stick around, whereas Muhammad Hassan got fired. So they had Davari come back with Mark Henry as his manager and to get revenge. I was actually at this show in person. It was a casket match. Mark Henry lost. Nothing too super great in the match. There was this really cool spot where Undertaker does his dive over the top rope, over the casket to land on Mark Henry, which was a pretty cool spot. But at the end of this, he's now 14-0 at WrestleMania.
Let's just take a moment to talk about Mark Henry. Because I just want to say, why was Mark Henry so shittily used? the only thing that I ever liked about Mark Henry for his entire career was the one thing that everybody hates, and that was sexual chocolate. Now,
was it Moolah? Him and Moolah?
Yeah, that was part of it. Yeah.
So you think that was the best of Mark Henry was sexual chocolate?
Yes, sexual chocolate was like the highlight of Mark Henry's career for me.
I mean, I won't say that was a bad one, but there was a little time period there where, like, somebody said, let's make him, and I'm sure Renee probably remembers, around 2010 or 11, they said, Mark Henry become the monster you're supposed to be or something. And there for a while, he went on a rampage and was like beating the hell out of everybody. I think he made it, maybe this is the main event for that. I don't know, but.
No, it's when he was doing his Hall of Pain gimmick.
That's what it was, Hall of Pain. See, I love that one. And I don't remember what stopped it, but
that was a great gimmick for him. And
I was tuning in to watch Mark Henry. Okay, I mean that was how good it was.
He got really good for a moment there, man. Like if he could have been that his whole career, man, it would have been crazy. But
no, he wanted to be Rocky's favorite and sexual chocolate. there for a while. So
Sexual chocolate, like everybody hates on sexual chocolate, but to me, like it was the best of his career. I didn't like.
that would have been like
any
cool,
of his other
like if he'd have done
gimmicks.
that. If he'd have done like the Hall of Pain for like 7 or 8 years, and then come out, after a year vacation, and said, "I'm sexual chocolate," that'd have been all right. But to start out like that, it's hard to become a badass after the fact.
When he was a bad guy and he was just talking shit in the ring, that shit was hilarious to me. Like,
yeah,
like he would like punch somebody in the face, and while they were on the ground, he'd be like, "I'm gonna beat you like you stole something," or he'd be like, "I'm gonna beat you like you owe me money."
Well, he was mad. I believed it. I thought he was really mad at somebody.
Well, I'm saying sexual chocolate was his best gimmick, but I just think that like WWE like just misused him like completely, like through his whole career.
I mean,
like, he just never got, because he was a fucking monster. I mean, when you look at him,
he was legit the strongest man in the world. Man. That wasn't a fucking gimmick. That was what he actually was for a while, man.
Yeah, he pulled 18-wheelers with his teeth and shit. I mean,
it was just like I don't know, Vince McMahon or whoever the fuck was controlling his gimmicks. It was just like completely misuse from like his whole career is what I always thought.
So just one story about Mark Henry real quick. In 2002, at this point, he'd been in the company about 5 years, and Mark Henry said that a lot of the strongman competitors were talking a lot of shit about him. And he goes to Vince McMahon's office and tells him, "I want to compete in the Arnold Schwarzenegger Strongman Classic to prove that I could still do this shit." And Vince McMahon tells him, "I'm gonna allow you to do it, but just so you know, if you don't fucking win, there's no place on this roster for the second strongest man."
Wow. Wow.
He's like, so if you're gonna do this, you better fucking win. And I mean, he fucking did it.
Is this a true story? Is that true?
Yeah.
Did you just make that up?
No, Mark Henry told it on the Stone Cold podcast.
Either way, it was a cool story.
I was going to say, what you don't know is Renee is actually a closet writer for WWE.
He makes all this shit up. So what you're saying is Renee is who we have to thank for not liking Mark Henry's gimmicks. Fuck you, Renee. You fucked it up.
Right.
I'm surprised he didn't use that in a storyline or something. I'm really shocked that Vince didn't use that. Some kind of angle.
So, I mean, I could tell this story too. So the Hall of Pain gimmick happened because at a house show, Vince McMahon was like ribbing Mark Henry. He kept playing like the wrong entrance music for him, just fucking with him.
Really?
They said Mark Henry got so fucking pissed that he just started like destroying the ring side stuff. Gets to the gorilla position and just fucking flips all the tables, all that shit. And he's like calling out Vince McMahon. And they're like, "Oh, Vince left already." He's like, "All right." So they said that Monday Night Raw, he goes straight to Vince's office and he's like, "Why are you fucking with me?" and stuff like that. And Vince was like, we actually recorded you while you were like flipping out. He's like, "Let me show you how you look. Like, this is how you're supposed to be. Like this fucking monster, badass guy. Like, that's how I want you to portray it." And that's where they came up with the Hall of Pain gimmick. I always thought that was really interesting, but I'm like, so you legit pissed off like a 400-pound dude that could fucking rip you in half just to like prove a point with him. I always thought that was pretty cool.
It's fucking genius.
Yeah. So after WrestleMania 22, they introduced the Great Khali. Now, Oh, we lost
What happened
Shane.
to Shane? Right there. That's how we all feel about Great Khali.
Oh, we completely lost him. He's like completely gone.
Why did you bring Great Khali up?
I know, right?
Shane.
He
Wow.
just brings bad luck. We'll continue until Shane finds his way back to us.
Maybe you got
Great Khali
Randy.
is fucking terrible.
I agree with that. He was good in the movie The Longest Yard, though.
like if I'll say he's slightly better than Giant Gonzalez, but
Oh my god, you might as well just say "fuck you, Great Khali." You might as well just that's like
if Giant Gonzalez is -5, Great Khali is like -4. He's just slightly better. Yeah.
I would not. I do not think he's that bad. I did when I seen the few times that I mean, he wasn't around that long, that Great Khali, but the few times that he was around, I never looked at him and thought, you're just one step better than Giant Gonzalez, which is like one of the shittiest giants that's ever existed in wrestling.
You have to think, man. Like Undertaker must have been like, why the fuck do I gotta keep working with these fucking guys? Like,
it's what happens when you're 7 foot tall. That's who you get.
And not only did he have to work with them, but they actually had Khali beat him in their first match.
Yeah, to get him over.
Well, yeah. And not only did they have Khali beat him, but this motherfucker pinned him by just putting his foot on Undertaker's chest. Like he yeah.
Same, but yeah, like Mark Calloway is honestly one of the best and most loyal wrestlers of a generation, I think. Just for being able to put people over when he didn't need to, and I'll be damned, he's one of the only few fuckers that understand kayfabe.
Yeah, I mean, he honestly didn't break kayfabe till this year.
And he's still, I was watching an interview, he's like, man, I start doing it and I still feel bad about it.
Yeah. He just said that on the Austin podcast the other day, where he's like, I still feel weird about doing it. Like, so eventually they introduce the Punjabi prison match, which, if you haven't seen this match, there's only been 3 of them in history, and I got to witness one of them live, by the way.
That a good thing or bad thing?
Mine was Batista versus the Great Khali. The one I got to witness. The Punjabi prison match is where they make a cage out of bamboo around the ring, and you have to escape that cage. But once you escape that cage, there's a second cage made out of bamboo that you also must escape. So you have to escape 2 cages.
We heard you like a cage, so we put a cage inside a cage.
Yep. Yeah.
They should have had Exhibit on as announcer for that one.
I'm sure someone saw that structure and was like, fuck my life. Anyway, after this, he was supposed to wrestle Great Khali at SummerSlam and a last man standing match. But I think they learned their lesson by being like, you know what? Let's just have this on SmackDown where it's pre-taped and we could edit it if we need to. For the rest of the year, Undertaker would feud with Mr. Kennedy. Do you guys remember Mr. Kennedy at all?
Nope.
No. He was around for a
This
couple
was-
years.
I think this is during the time I was actually not watching wrestling.
He was really talented on the mic. His gimmick would be like he'd get on the mic and basically be like Michael Buffer doing his own introduction. And then, you know, after he'd do his weight and his hometown, he'd be like, Mr. Kennedy. And then bring the mic back to his face and repeat, Kennedy. I think a lot of people thought he would be like the next Rock. He was a pretty talented guy, and he was just too injury prone. I think that's what kind of derailed his career. Sometime around 2009, 2010, during a match, he literally dropped Randy Orton on his head, and the next day he was like released. So I think they were just like, all right, we're fucking done with this guy. Not only is he injuring himself all the time, but now he could possibly be injuring other people.
But yet they kept Seth Rollins.
I think Rollins, I mean, he injured Sting, but I mean, Sting's like, why the fuck was Sting taking a turnbuckle bomb to begin with? Like, he should have said no to that. We now enter 2007, and Undertaker wins the Royal Rumble for the first time in his career. It's a great Royal Rumble. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It comes down to Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker as the final two. And they pretty much have like a 10-minute match before Undertaker eliminates Shawn. This was also their first like one-on-one match, or like them being in the ring one-on-one against each other since the casket match all the way back at Royal Rumble 98. But if you get a chance, definitely check out this Royal Rumble. It's a good one. So in the lead up to WrestleMania, since he won the Royal Rumble, Undertaker had his choice between wrestling John Cena on Raw, wrestling Bobby Lashley, the ECW champion, on ECW, or wrestling Batista on SmackDown for his world title. We end up getting the Batista match. And in the build up to WrestleMania that year, they would have what was the Raw main event versus the SmackDown main event. So we got Shawn Michaels and John Cena versus Undertaker and Batista. And in the lead up to WrestleMania, Undertaker and Batista would team up as to also fight Booker T and Finlay a lot. Welcome back, Shane.
Okay,
Yeah.
Shane.
Randy Orton called me. Me and he was talking business, and we were going to try to work something out. So sorry about that, guys. When RKO calls, when the Viper calls, I got to answer. So
you missed us discussing the Punjabi prison match.
That was actually a very interesting match, and it's actually one of the crazier matches. I watched that match. That was a crazy match, man. But
and then you also miss Mr. Kennedy. Any quick thoughts on Kennedy?
Kennedy, man, what was he, Mr. Anderson in the TNA? Is that what he was, Mr.?
Yeah.
What I missed was the damn Mark Henry story that you have to tell me all about after the show's over.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Undertaker winning the Royal Rumble in 2007. But anyway, back to the WrestleMania match. So WrestleMania 23. So they actually told Batista that he would be winning this match, that he was going to break the streak. And apparently he started acting like such an asshole backstage after they told him this that Vince McMahon changed his mind. I will say the match is actually really good. It's another one of those matches I would recommend. Because of Undertaker winning the Royal Rumble, Batista felt that they should have been the main event of the show, but instead they had Shawn and Cena main event that show. So Batista says that him and Taker were basically like, well, let's give everyone a match that can't be followed. And I do think it's the better match between the two main events.
I wonder if he had any ill will toward Taker over the decision of Vince McMahon, or if he realized, why I'm just being an asshole and that's why they're not going to let me win. So,
So with this win, Undertaker is now 15-0 at WrestleMania. Sorry, just updating my computer screen here. For the rest of
Just want to let everybody know this is my last shot for the night. I've drank all of my alcohol that I had laid out here. 2 things of bootlegger and 4 shots.
You fucking hockey, man.
So we need like a AA night for Rocky is what we need. Is that what we need?
That's what I'm hearing.
The next episode will be an intervention for Rocky.
Yeah.
I will not come to that episode. And just for the chat, since they're like sending me shit, hell yeah, brother. I can't do a Hulkamania voice. Sorry. I don't know what Hulk Hogan sounds like.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. just say brother a bunch of times.
Brother.
There you go.
Do you guys remember? I think we, to get a little off topic, do you guys remember Shawn Michaels' Hulk Hogan parody when they did the feud?
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines. So Shawn comes out dressed as Hogan with a fucking walker to the ring. And then he starts.
Bald head.
Yeah, the bald head, the orange shirt, the boa, all that shit.
He may have been wearing a diaper too. I can't remember. Was he wearing a diaper?
And he does his appearance on Larry King because Hogan had just done the Larry King interview like the week before. And one of the questions that they take on the Larry King show is, he's like, hey, Hogan, when are you coming back to Battle Creek, Michigan? And, Michaels as Hogan is like, that would imply that I've ever been to Battle Creek to begin with. He's like, I only do the big towns, brother. And he said Michaels as Hogan is like, Shawn Michaels likes to steal the show and give everyone their money's worth. He's like, me, once I got your money in my pocket, it's time for me to take it easy. It's fucking great. If you've never seen it, check that out. So for the rest of 2007, Undertaker would have feuds with Batista, Edge, Mark Henry, back to Batista, and then back to Edge again. It was the Edge feud was actually a bit building up to WrestleMania 24. At this point in the storyline, they had Edge. Vicky Guerrero was the SmackDown general manager, and Edge was dating her in the story, basically, so he could have the general manager in his back pocket and basically give him unlimited title shots and whatever else he wanted.
I mean, it worked for Triple H. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Undertaker would go on to win the Elimination Chamber that year to get the number one contendership at WrestleMania, where he would take on Edge. In the build up to that, they would have Edge had his own group of guys with him, and basically the entire build up to the WrestleMania match was Edge and his guys beating the Undertaker in handicap matches, chair shot beat downs. At one point, Undertaker or Edge held a eulogy for the Undertaker's streak. One of the cool things in the build up to this is that Edge himself was undefeated at this point. Edge himself was like 7-0 going into this WrestleMania. The eulogy bit was actually pretty cool because they had the casket out there, all that, and Undertaker pops out of the casket during the eulogy and beats the shit out of Edge. This would be another WrestleMania match I would recommend a lot. This was Undertaker's first WrestleMania main event since the Psycho Sid match. About 11 years before this. And it would be his 6th world title win as well. And this would make him 16-0 as well. He would continue his feud with Edge throughout 2008. This is also around the time we don't see Undertaker as much anymore. He's not doing like full years anymore. He's doing like 6-7 months here and there. He would have a title versus career match against Edge in a TLC match. It's another match I would recommend. At some point, they have Undertaker actually fall off a 20-foot ladder through like 4 tables. Eventually, they have, since he does lose that match, they write off Undertaker for a while. Edge starts feuding with Triple H, and you find out that Edge has been cheating on Vicky Guerrero this whole time. And this causes her to bring back The Undertaker versus Edge in Hell in a Cell at SummerSlam. It's another match I would highly recommend. At one point, they actually have Undertaker chokeslam Edge from the top of a ladder inside the cell through the ring, and they imply that Edge has now gone to hell. I always thought that was hilarious.
Who called the match?
What's up?
Who called the match?
It would have probably been Michael Cole and Mick Foley, maybe.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't JR.
Mick Foley was the SmackDown commentator for a while, but he really didn't like how Vince McMahon would yell at him through the headset, so he pretty much was only around for like 4 or 5 months.
I just have to say something about Vicky Guerrero since we mentioned her. Like, I know the whole story about, like, after what happened to Eddie and everything, and that's why they brought her on. But goddamn, she was fucking great as a heel. I fucking hated her. Like, everything about her.
She was a heel magnet, man.
I know. That bitch,
voice,
like, you just was like, fuck her.
That voice was just all it took, really. Excuse me.
Honestly, it got to the point where you didn't even think of Eddie when you saw her anymore.
No.
Like she
She's got that
became her
Karen
own.
haircut too.
What's up?
She's got the Karen cut.
Yes.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, she's a great heel. And you know what? She took tombstones and other maneuvers, man, at different times. So
When
she was there for everything.
what did she take when she wore the neck brace forever?
That was the tombstone.
It was the tombstone. That was her best fucking like run when she was wearing that fucking neck brace. She was like fucking hilarious, and you like were just like fuck you.
Yeah,
like every time she came out.
Yeah, she was great. Yeah. So after the Edge feud, he would go on to feud with the Big Show for a while, which leads to WrestleMania 25. So they decide to have a few matches to decide who would get to face Undertaker this year. It came down to JBL versus Shawn Michaels, which Shawn Michaels won. And which would lead to Undertaker and Shawn teaming up to fight JBL and another Russian Drago knockoff, Vladimir Kozlov, which would lead to Shawn super kicking Undertaker during the match. You also had Shawn do a cemetery promo where they actually have 15 tombstones with all the Undertaker's victories listed. And then when you get to the 17 and 01 for Shawn, he has his name scratch off of it and he super kicks the tombstone into the grave. But my favorite bit to all of this too was during the entrances for the match. They have Shawn Michaels descend from the roof in an all white Undertaker outfit. So he's wearing the white long coat, white hat, and descends from the heavens. And then Undertaker descends from under the stage like he's coming out from hell, basically. This is my favorite Undertaker WrestleMania match is versus Shawn. Have you? Do you guys remember this match? Fuck you, Rocky. If that's anyone's favorite WrestleMania match, just turn in your wrestling card. Like,
wow.
Like, this is a great fucking match. Like, this isn't my only favorite like WrestleMania match. This might be like my favorite match of all time. I mean, at certain points, Shawn kicks out of the tombstone, which is something you never see. At one point, Undertaker almost kills himself. So at one point, they have a cameraman out there who is actually the son of Jimmy Snuka. His name was Sim Snuka, and he was trying to become a wrestler. And Undertaker does his dive spot, and the cameraman, played by Sim Snuka, is supposed to catch Undertaker or take the impact of the dive because Shawn gets out of the way. And Sim Snuka completely misses the Undertaker. And Undertaker lands on his neck. And you could if you watch the match, you could hear him crunching as he hits the pavement. Let's just say the next day, Sim Snuka no longer had a job. And has never been hired back or anything.
You had one job, Snuka. One job.
Yeah. And it didn't matter who your daddy was. Hold on. So my computer died here, so hold on. Give me 1 second, guys, so I could continue to pull up my notes.
We just do the
Is this the only time that Shawn Michaels faces the Undertaker at WrestleMania main event?
No, he would actually face them the following year.
Okay, so it's next year. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing right now is watching Renee reboot his computer as he gives us directions from across the room.
I mean, you guys could talk up about Shawn Michaels a little bit or something.
Well, I don't remember this match that we're talking about, but I guess it was the next year that I remember very well. It was a very good match. So they faced each other 2 years in a row?
Yeah, so the following, so with this win, Undertaker is now 17-0.
Yeah.
So the following year, pretty much Undertaker pretty much disappears after this until the following year.
This is officially when he's just showing up once a year now at this point in time, right?
For the most part, yeah. Like at this point, he's getting big paydays for just showing up.
And he's not showing up till like February.
He didn't have to.
Yeah.
He didn't have to at this point.
He basically says that in his documentary that, you know, he basically considered himself retired at the end of every WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And then he'd say, like, usually around November, December, when like the WrestleMania card was starting to build up, he'd get a call from Vince and be like, "Hey, you want to come back?" And he'd be like, "Sure." And then he'd work out for like 3 months, do his couple Raw appearances, wrestle at WrestleMania, and then go home and have surgery for whatever he fucked up during WrestleMania, and then just wait for that call in November or December again.
I'll be honest, I would go like weeks without watching, wrestling or whatever, and I would make sure that I would be tuning in the TV starting around January. I would be catching every Raw, making sure that I caught every Raw, just to see or just to hear that gong. Dong, I mean, there for a few years. That's the only reason. I mean, I was making sure I was watching just to hear the gong, go off, and I remember it going off around then.
I'd seen
Let
an
me ask you
interview
guys:
with
were you? Have you guys ever watched them wrestle live? I know you mentioned
Taker?
the American Badass before in part 1, Shane.
Yeah,
But did
that's
you-
the only time I've ever seen him live at all, and
So-
wasn't expecting that.
So I've been at 6 WrestleManias myself, so I've seen him perform at 6 WrestleManias. And I'll tell you, man, anytime he comes out there, it's fucking incredible. Like, it's just crazy, man. It's I don't know how else to describe it, man, but it's incredible. So yeah, as we said, he would wrestle Shawn the following year again.
What were you going to say, Rocky?
I don't remember.
Oh, he's drunk. Never mind. Sorry.
Was this WrestleMania 26?
Yes.
The second time we were? Okay.
Yeah. So during the build-up to this match, Shawn kept telling himself, like, I have to beat him, this or that. And Undertaker basically says, no, Like, I'm not gonna wrestle you. So Shawn, at this point, Undertaker was champion for the 7th and final time, I believe. And Shawn was like, well, I'll just go win the Royal Rumble and then just challenge you. Like, if that's what it's going to take, that's what I'll do. Shawn made it to the final 4 that year in the Royal Rumble, but ended up being eliminated. And so Undertaker's defending his title and the Elimination Chamber. Which I know you guys are a little bit newer fans. Do you guys know the Chamber, Rocky and Roland?
Yeah, no, I don't remember the Elimination Chamber actually.
I don't know.
It's almost like War Games in a way. 2 guys start the match. It's inside this massive cage that and there's 4 pods inside.
Okay, yeah, I do remember this. Yeah,
Okay.
I remember these matches. Yeah.
So before this
Didn't know what it
match
was called.
starts, during Undertaker's entrance, the pyro guy fucks up
Oh,
and lights the Undertaker on fire. Right, like during the middle of his entrance, he's just engulfed in a giant flame.
Melts his jacket.
Yeah.
Burns his arm. Yeah, he's on fire.
He got like 2nd and 3rd degree burns during this. And throughout the whole match, so they kind of change up the match a bit, and they make sure that he's the last guy to come into the match, so that he doesn't have to be in it that much. And the whole time,
trauma
they're-
or suffering shock, I think, in that, doesn't he?
yeah, the whole time they're handing him bottles of water so he could douse himself. And you could just see the blisters on his chest, his arms, his face. And once again, he basically tells the ref or whatever, when I get back there, that pyro guy better not be there, because I'm going to fucking kill him.
Well, the reason being they had done this exact entrance, building up not even a week beforehand, and Taker told him the pyros are too close. You'll have to spread them out because this one's going to hit me. Because during, I guess when they done it, it erupted real close to him, so he had to move over. And he said, if I move over, I'm going to get hit by the other one when it goes off. So you got to take this one out or space it out different, so when I walk through, it's not going to hit me. And he's like, the pyro guy apparently replied back with, it's just because there's a draft in here right now that's causing that pyro to blow towards you. You'll be fine. And, well, he went through, boom, got hit with it, and told him, he's like, nope, all right, so I told you.
Yeah, they say that guy got escorted out the building like within minutes.
I actually heard a recent interview with Undertaker talking about this, and his they asked him about the match and everything, and he's like, all I'm gonna say about this is I don't recommend this. I was like, that's probably a fact right there. I don't recommend getting caught on fire either.
Well, it's something really interesting is it was a last second decision. And the way he had talked about it, it literally was like very much last minute, a costume change, because originally he was going to go out without the belt on, and he was going to go out in the sleeveless druid outfit, which would have left him his arms entirely exposed to the pyro. So he decided last minute that he was going to wear the belt out, so he put the coat on over it and then put the hat on. And the hat was also on fire, if you see it. Like, he comes out of that, you can tell he come out of that fast, and you could tell right then and there that adrenaline was pumping. He was going to kill somebody if he could have got his hands on them.
Yeah, if you look it up on YouTube, you could see some fan recordings of him like catching fire. It's fucking nuts. I'm glad that it didn't, it wasn't worse than that.
You know what this tells me? This tells me that Goldberg really is a badass to go through all that pyro all those years.
Yeah, Goldberg still sucks.
He stands in the middle of it, man, and breathes in the air and smoke and stuff. He's crazy. No Goldberg fans here, huh?
I like Goldberg.
Goldberg fan. I like Goldberg.
You know what else is crazy is after he suffers these fucking burns, that he still takes chops to the chest from Chris Jericho during the match itself.
Second best chops in the industry.
Yeah, like I'm surprised you didn't see like his like skin from his chest just fly off during the match. But
I mean, if I'd been Taker, I'd have looked at Jericho and be like, "You really want to do this? You sure?"
Right.
You sure want to do that?
So at the end of the match, Shawn Michaels sneaks into the chamber, super kicks Undertaker, and costs him the world title, which leads to Undertaker basically being like, "All right, I accept the challenge. Let's do this." But he says, "If I'm putting the streak on the line, then you have to put your career on the line." Shawn Michaels accepts, so we have the streak versus the career. Now, me personally, I feel like a lot of people like the WrestleMania 26 match a little bit more. Me personally, I like the WrestleMania 25 better. But honestly, either way, you're watching a 5-star match. I will say the end of the match is really great. Undertaker's basically telling Shawn to stay down. Shawn is resilient and slaps the fuck out of Undertaker. So Undertaker does a tombstone on him, but unlike his regular tombstone, Undertaker jumps in the air onto his knees to hit the tombstone instead of just landing on his knees directly like he normally does it. And he's now 18-0 at WrestleMania. Undertaker would actually have a little bit of a feud with Kane after this, which Kane actually wins all the matches in this feud. I think Undertaker was like, "You know what, fuck it, like you could win finally." It's been 13 years. You can finally beat me. This is also when Paul Bearer makes his return. And I would say it's his final return. They kill him off on screen again, by the way. This time Kane sticks him in a freezer and just locks the door.
I remember this one actually, yeah.
So did they ever explain how the fuck Paul Bearer came back?
I don't know, same way Undertaker comes back. They're all fucking satanic. I don't know.
They're supernatural beings from beyond this realm, Roland.
And they wear white makeup. So there you go. The trick is the white makeup.
I think it's the iron. I think they all live inside the iron and they just pop out randomly.
And
I just get this
valley.
now. The "I Dream of Jeannie" thing is just playing through my head.
Yeah, Undertaker doing the little dance and everything.
Yep. Somebody rubs the iron, like somebody's like, "Ooh," and out pops a Taker.
For Paul Bearer. Yeah.
That would not be what you was wanting if you was rubbing on it.
Hilarious. So after the Kane feud, Undertaker would be gone for about half a year. Eventually, we start seeing commercials for something coming, and
This guy remembers
originally,
the commercials. I remember the commercials, but he remembers them. I mean, when he said that, I remembered it, but he remembers them. And they were like 5-second commercials, man. There's only like 3 of them. He remembers them.
yeah, it was showing like this cabin in the woods, and you just see these pair of boots come on the screen.
Who was the music by?
I don't remember that part.
Johnny
but
Cash.
Yes, actually, you're right. They were playing Johnny Cash.
Well, of course I'm right.
Now, the rumor is that this was supposed to be Sting. They were finally, and they did make an offer to Sting because WrestleMania 27 was going to be in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta. Let's try to get Sting. So that's why the first 2 commercials would only show like the boots coming on screen, because they were like, if we need to like change it around or something, we could still change it around. So by the time the 3rd commercial aired, Sting had already said no. So they're like, all right, when the camera pans up, it's the Undertaker. So
what was the song? What was the song, Renee? What was the song Johnny Cash was singing? Do you remember?
Ain't No Grave.
Oh, he's got it. Good job. He knows everything.
Well, did you know that when they re-aired the WrestleMania show on NBC, they changed it to a Katy Perry song?
What?
And no, I'm not fucking joking.
What channel was this?
Whenever they re-aired it on NBC.
Fuck NBC. There we go.
So Triple H's built up to this match.
We'll never be on NBC now, guys. Sorry. No way was gonna pull that off anyway. Never mind.
Yeah. I was hoping to host the Thanksgiving parade on NBC one day. I guess that's gonna be a no.
I mean, you still got a shot, as long as you don't curse NBC.
All right.
Rocky, gone, man. Sorry.
So to the built up for this is that Triple H claiming that he was better than Shawn and that he could end the streak. Now this is a WrestleMania that I was at, and it was definitely the best card on that night. So no holds barred match between Triple H and Undertaker, and they beat the ever living shit out of each other.
You were at the match?
Mm-hmm.
Where was it?
Atlanta at the Georgia Dome.
Yeah. That probably is my favorite. That's probably my favorite Undertaker match. Absolutely. I mean,
I think the 3 of us were all sitting drinking, watching it in Somerset.
Yeah, the Rock hosted that show, and but yeah, the match itself is incredible. At the end of the match, Undertaker's actually taken out in a stretcher, basically.
my favorite, one of the best reactions I ever saw was by Triple H in that match. Is after he'd hit him with a sledgehammer or something, and for the 15th time, and he went to go pin him, and magically the Undertaker kicks out, and the reaction that Triple H has, it was a look of fear on his face, and he was like crawling to the ropes because he was so scared. I can't believe this man just kicked out. It was one of the best reactions I ever saw.
I want to say they have Undertaker beat him with a Hell's Gate submission, the triangle choke. Yeah. And when he's doing the triangle choke, they have Triple H still have the hammer in his hand, but he passes out. He passes out right before he's able to hit him with it.
Yeah.
It was really great storytelling. So after this, Undertaker once again. So now he's 19-0. But after this, once again, he's gone for a whole year until he gets that call from Vince.
Actually, before we go on, I remember what I was going to say earlier, Shane. and it's about this, the whole yearly thing.
Yeah.
Like I seen an interview recently with Taker, and he was talking about the yearly thing, and he said after every match he was like, he would go home and he's like, well, I'm retired now, and his wife would say, basically go, you're a fucking liar. As soon as you get the phone call, you're going to be back in the ring. So stop telling me you're retired. just like Renee said here, he gets that phone call and he's back for next WrestleMania.
Yeah, so the following year, Triple H is out there bragging, like acting like he didn't even lose, just because he sent the Undertaker out in a stretcher. Like, yeah, I lost, but no one's like beating him as much as I beat him during that match.
I thought the whole angle on that was like Triple H was not even focused. I mean, didn't even think about the Taker, and Taker just kind of showed up one night. And it was like, that's when they like had a staring thing at the WrestleMania sign, and Triple H is like, no, we're not going to do this or something. Am I mistaken on that?
So I want to say that was maybe 27, the build up to 27, but at 28, Undertaker did want the rematch.
Yeah, Taker kept looking at the sign, and in 27, they both looked at the sign like, yes, that's where we'll do it, without saying a word. And this time, Triple H is like, no.
And nowadays, everybody points at the fucking sign.
Yeah, they started
the fucking curtain jerker and Ham and Eggers pointing at that sign now.
Yeah. Hey, that's what we'll do. One of our podcasts, me and you, Roland, we'll get us a sign at WrestleMania, and we'll stand there and point at it.
Yeah.
Are you challenging me and Renee to a tag team match? Is that what's going on there?
I mean, bro, if you want to go, you want to go, come get it, son. Roland, wake the hell up. We got a match, man.
Roland's getting old over there. So to
bring the cat can be the manager.
Yeah.
Be the two old guys versus the two young guys. Yeah.
So
hey, we're the two young ones. Fuck you, Shane.
So this year they decided to do Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania, and as an added stipulation, Triple H adds Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee.
Oh.
This is known as the end of an era match. Because honestly, they were like the last three guys, most longest tenured guys in the company at this point. And I was also at this WrestleMania. Which fuck those palm trees on the rings, by the way, for the ring during the rings, around the ring and shit like that, because those motherfuckers were in people's ways.
This was in Miami?
Yes.
Okay.
Were
you at ringside?
No, I
was in the third row.
No, I wasn't. I was like in the first row of my section, but I was like on the second, where the actual stadium seating begins. I don't like the first, like, if you're not getting first row, it's not worth it, because if you have someone taller than you sitting in front of you, then that's it. You're fucked the rest of the night,
I want one of those corner seats. I want a corner seat right there where the ramp meets the square around, the square that goes around the ring. I want one of those little corner seats right there. That would be the greatest seat ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep. This match itself is also fucking incredible. Has a lot of near falls. I mean, at one point, Taker takes a super kick from Shawn and the pedigree and still kicks out. Like, they're both so bruised at the end of this match, and honestly, this probably could have been a retirement match too, because after the match, you have all three guys walking up the ramp and just looking back at the crowd like, I guess it's over. Like, this is it. And
how did the count out go? Did Sean go 1, 2, and then hold 3 for like 5 minutes or something? Is that how that went? Do I remember that right?
No, like at certain points, because the idea with Sean as ref was like, you know, Undertaker basically tells Triple H like, you know, in your mind you'll never be good as Sean. And during the match, it's like, does Sean want to count the 3 pin on Undertaker? Because then that means Triple H did something that he couldn't. But at the same time, does he want to get back at the Undertaker for retiring him?
Yeah.
So there were a lot of stories going into the match. Honestly, I think that would have been a good send-off for all three of them. You know, hey, the match is over. Undertaker won. He's officially 20-0.
Yeah. Kill it.
Like, but he decided to do 7 more WrestleManias. So we will be discussing those on our next Undertaker episode. Any last words on the last 10 years of Undertaker?
I'll say like the first 10 years was, you know, he different kind of wrestling. The second, you know, if you look at it and break it down like you've been doing 10 years, I mean, it was just a different kind of wrestling, I guess. You know, you see him evolve, you know, and it's kind of cool looking back on him, because you know, the young Undertaker walking on the ropes, jumping up, flying over the ropes all the time. He was just a lot more agile, and this Undertaker was a little more brutal, you know. And so yeah, it's kind of cool.
I think the 4 matches, those 4 years in a row, actually, like 6 years in a row, Batista, Edge, both Shawn Michaels matches, and the 2 Triple H matches are all like 5-star matches, honestly.
Yeah.
And
I think the Triple H no holds bar and the career versus streak match with not Triple H, but Shawn Michaels. That, to me, that's 2 of Undertaker's best matches, period. Like, that is like the highlight of his career right there, is those 2 matches.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be at both WrestleManias where he fought Triple H, and like I said, at WrestleMania 27 and 28, I mean, they were both the highlights of the night, you know. Neither main event that ended either of those cards could match up what the Undertaker and Triple H match did. Because like WrestleMania 27 was main evented by Cena and The Miz, and that wasn't good. And the main event of the Miami or WrestleMania 28 was The Rock coming back versus Cena. And while I did enjoy the match, it was just not what Undertaker and Triple H delivered, you know.
Yeah. Definitely.
Have any of you guys ever watched the video on YouTube called Wrestling Isn't Wrestling?
No.
It's like a 20-minute video talking about wrestling, and it actually covers Triple H's career in a very fun way. And it does take a pretty nice section where they talk about the Undertaker and stuff like that.
Isn't that an animated?
It's not animated.
Okay.
They actually have all the wrestlers portrayed by women. So
Yes, I have
Oh.
seen that one.
Okay.
I think you
So-
showed that to me years ago.
Okay. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, check it out. It's pretty funny. But they basically talk about it's mostly about Triple H and his career, but they basically talk about how when wrestling is good, there's nothing better than it. It's like the most fun entertainment thing, and I won't spoil it too much, but check it out. It's definitely worth 20 minutes of your time.
Wrestling isn't wrestling. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just look it up under YouTube. You should be able to find it. So when we come back the next time, we'll be covering the last 9 years or so of the Undertaker's career. Honestly, it'll probably be kind of quick because after this, he's only coming back once a year for WrestleManias.
It'll be a quick cast. It'll be over in like 15 minutes.
Yeah. So you got the call.
I won't even have time to get drunk on that one.
Yeah. He got the call. He was told he was making like $2 million. He said, I'll be there. Had the match. Awesome. I'll also discuss I was actually at WrestleMania 30 when the Undertaker streak ended, and I'll talk about how that went.
We'll have a lot to talk about in that match.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of bitching going on in that match.
Yeah, we need to call to see if we can get Triple H on the horn too and get him in on this because I want to bitch at him a little bit for letting all this bullshit happen.
I think it's safe to say that all of us think that the streak should have never ended.
Yeah. So, Roland, I need you to work on that. Go ahead and get the H on the next cast. So, take care of that for us.
Get that tag team match set up too.
Yeah.
So wait, who's supposed to be the tag partners?
Me and you versus Shane and Roland.
Well, I don't fucking drink, so you got to drink for both of us, Rocky.
No, this is a tag match. What are you talking about? This ain't
Oh,
drinking.
I thought it was a beer drinking
This is
contest.
not a
not
beer
a
drinking
drinking
match.
game, baby.
This is a wrestling match.
This is a good old fashioned barnyard slobber knocking brawl.
This is a wrestling match, Renee.
I got some barbed wire out back. We'll wrap around the ring.
What's that shit Dusty used to have? The bunkhouse stampede?
Yeah. Okay. We're going to get funky like a monkey.
We're gonna bring out some backyard shit. Get some
and then
halogen
afterwards,
lights and break them over each other's backs.
afterwards, baby, we'll go to the pay window, if you will. You can't bring up Dusty and not do the fucking lisp, y'all.
Yeah, you got it.
It's the American dream, baby.
But just for our viewers out there, just so you know, when this match occurs, if you're already subscribed, then we're not going to charge you. But if you're not subscribed, then it's going to be like a $10 fee to watch. So get your ass to subscribing right now. Hit the like button, subscribe. So,
Doing some high flying maneuvers.
I mean that's a pretty good payment. We're not taking $50 from you like Roy Jones and Mike Tyson did.
Yeah, $10.
Good home quality or home friendly, superb quality entertainment for just $10.
Okay, before we end this cast, though, guys, I just gotta say, in the chat, someone told me earlier that I look like Mankind, and I don't know if to take that as a compliment or as an insult.
You a little bit do,
but just in case, fuck you, Chris.
Now, is this pre Hell in a Cell Mankind, or is this like fucking cripple Mankind?
It's probably cripple Mankind.
If you had a long-haired wig on, you would look just like him.
I'll have to get one then. We'll see.
Hey, Rocky. Hey, Rocky. Could you do one of these for me? Have a nice day. There you go. It's fucking Mick Foley, yo.
That's a perfect ending, guys.
And you know what? Because I ain't done it tonight, fuck you, Shane, fuck you, Renee, and fuck you, Roland. And fuck you, audience. Good night.
Later. Peace out.
Mr.